just because she's a single mom with kids doesn't mean you can't date her. So Robert's going to give us some secrets to what a healthy relationship with a single mom looks like.
I am so glad you're here today. If you're thinking about dating a single mom, which is something that I've just went through recently, I'm going to give you 3 tips. And there's probably, lots of other things I could share on this topic, but I'm going to give you the 3 tips that I think were the most impactful, like in my life and the research I've done, that make the most sense if you're a guy looking to date a single mom. The first one is similar. If you watched last time we talked about dating a single dad, same point, equally yoked. I mean, in our world, you're following Jesus, and one of the things my pastor told me back in Nebraska was that is the number one most important thing when you're dating, not just a single mom or single dad, but dating in general, because you have to be equally yoked. Because if you're not, you're setting yourself up for potential problems, because one person is going to be trying to pull the other one along, and that is not good. So I think that is the first point that I would start with. And you're going to know right off the bat. And the caution here with this one is don't compromise. All right. If she's like beautiful and you love her kids and you share a lot of interests, if we're not equally yoked, don't compromise on that point. So that's the first tip I would give you is make sure you're equally yoked. And that you're not going to know right off the bat. You're going to have discussions around that. So as a guy, if you're approaching a single mom, I would say share that with them right off the bat, that's important to you. It's almost a non-negotiable for you. And then, maybe your first date is to sit down and talk about that a little bit, and say, hey, let's get that out of the way, because I think I'm older, Lana's older. We've both been through divorce a couple of times. Like we talked off camera, we don't have a lot of discretionary time to just play around and mess around. We want people to have genuine thoughts in their mind and really to be a little bit intentional about that. So that leads me right into my second point, and that is know where you are. I mean, some of the problems of dating a single mom, I think, come into play when a guy is going into the situation with one mindset and the lady is going in with a totally different mindset. If you're a guy and you want to get married again, and the lady is like, well, I'm not really interested in getting married. I just want a good friend, somebody that I can date and just be able to confide in. Well, could be a recipe for a disaster unless those things are talked about up front. So I think both of my first 2 points are really, really talking about having some pretty detailed discussions up front versus, just being kind of superficial and top level. I mean, we've been through that when we're young. You get attracted to somebody, you just look at them, and it's just, sometimes it can be all about that animal magnetism and all of that thing, all of those things. But when you're talking about dating a single mom, like in this case, it's a lot more serious than that. I mean, there's a lot more that comes with it. There are kids involved. There's history that you're bringing, that they're bringing. So it isn't just some willy-nilly thing that you can take lightly. You really do have to approach it with a different mindset. And my third point would be, make sure that you do some self-work before you even think about dating, in this case, a single mom. As a guy, really, think back through and analyze and get help if you need to understand what are your past wounds, what are your triggers. I mean, what are the things that have maybe interrupted or interfered with your ability to have a successful relationship in the past, and come to terms with those things and be able to be able to admit those things, and then share, maybe your struggles and the areas that you're trying to improve. So I think if you go into, you're gonna date a single mom, if you've put some time behind who you are, and you're able to articulate kind of your strengths and weaknesses and the things you're still struggling with, because they're going to come out at some point anyway. So it's better to have a good handle on it, and don't try to be somebody you're not. Oh my goodness. Do not do that. Do not try to cater to what you think they want, because again, that's not sustainable, and it will come out down the road, and it could lead to disaster, and nobody wants that. So those would be my 3 tips. Equally yoked, know where you are, go in with some intentionality, and then make sure you know yourself and that you're able to articulate who you are, where you are, and those sorts of things. Alana, do you have any personal experience or testimonials you want to share on that?
I think those were all really good points. And just to kind of like wrap them up all into one, like I would just say that knowing what you want and not settling for less than that is kind of plays into all those points, like finding someone that's equally yoked, and knowing who you are and like what you want. And I think being intentional in the beginning, like you said, letting each other know where you stand, being genuine and transparent. I think those are probably, like, for me, dating is key at this point in my life. When I was younger, like you said, yeah, that's more fun. And, you're not really thinking about those things. But, after you've been divorced, and have kids and all of that, like there's just so much more to think about. And it's no fun to find yourself in a dead end relationship at this point in life. So yeah, that's what I would say.
Yeah, and I would add, some of the things, there's some red flags out there for dating a single mom. I mean, some of those things can be, pay attention to the red flags. I'm not going to go through some specific red flags, but them. And I'm sure this goes for guys and gals. When you're dating somebody in that dating phase, what I've noticed is, when I'm too anxious to make it work, I tended to, there'd be a red flag that would come up, and I'm like, well, that's not a big deal. Or, oh, I can overcome that. So, my testimonial on dating single moms is, don't ignore the red flags. Don't think that you're like the knight in shining armor and you can overcome and you can handle any of those things, because boy, oh boy, that can get you into trouble. And I can vouch for that, with my past, 2 divorces, and, through our dating, Alana and I have learned so much about myself. And, we've had disagreements, which have been wonderful, because at the other end of those disagreements, as we're getting to know each other, that's where the growth has really come from. And that's where we've taken some big steps. But if we hold back, and if I don't say, oh, I don't like pink blush, that's a red flag. If I don't say something like that, then she keeps wearing pink blush, and I'm getting upset about the pink blush, and all of a sudden it turns into, a big to-do. But no, it's like, I need to say that right off the bat. I don't like pink blush. And she can respond to that. We can have a discussion and come to a compromise. So I think that's key from my own personal standpoint. I would just say, you have to be genuine. You have to raise the red flags. And that doesn't mean that if you see a red flag, you run. I mean, if you've covered those first 3 points that we talked about, equally yoked, you know where you are, you're coming into it with the right mindset, you're going to see red flags. But the key is, don't bury those red flags. The key is to talk about them, surface them, and come at them from that standpoint, and see if they can be worked out. Sometimes they may be a no-go, and you may have to part ways, but make sure you don't hide them, because that could lead to, you know, another divorce down the road. And of course, none of us want that.
So subscribe with the notification bell to receive regular updates, and hit the like button down below to leave comments, questions, or answers.
And we are so excited. Join us next time on this journey from isolation to community, where freedom awaits just beyond. Take care.